Hello and welcome to the movie podcast review of F1, the movie. My name is Daniel. I'm one of your hosts today, and joining alongside me on the track are Shahbaz.
Vroom vroom, baby.
Mazda, zoom zoom. As you're wearing a Ferrari jacket. And Anthony.
Hello. Vroom vroom.
Vroom vroom. Vroom vroom, everybody. We are here to talk all about Joseph Kosinski's F1, the movie. This is one that we've been waiting so long for. I think from the very first footage that we saw, we were just like, okay, this, I think we're all suckers for a great racing movie, and here we are. It's finally out for us to talk about. Of course, I want to say a huge thank you to our friends at IMAX for inviting us to watch this movie. You could catch it in theaters today, and we're going to talk all about it. But before we get to all of that fun stuff, I just want to know, obviously, I think Anthony is our resident, racing expert. Going into this film, Anthony, we've had so many, I think, incredible films about racing and cars over the years. What's your, give people a little barometer to your taste of what do you think are the best racing films of all time?
Ooh, it's best racing films of all time. I always talk about this film I've been talking about this film on the podcast for so long, like Grand Prix, which is like an old, I'm going to say 60s film, which kind of chronicled the Grand Prix at that time and how technology was used to capture these racing circuits and the cars. And it was a film that was ahead of its time. A film for me that I discovered after watching a bunch of other racing films. I'm like, my gosh, they were able to capture this 20, 30 years ago based on when I watched it. But yeah, Grand Prix is a big one. I also really like the recently Gran Turismo, which was more of a GT racing, and it had a lot of drone footage, but it felt like that speed was captured on the big screen really, really well. But then there's other films like, Fast and the Furious or Gone in 60 Seconds, but those are more of heist movies that involve cars. The one that always comes to mind is the Ron Howard film with Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl. Why am I blanking on the name?
Bruhl. Rush,
which is the story of Niki Lauda and Jimmy Stewart, or not Jimmy Stewart.
Not Jimmy Stewart. It's a James Hunt.
Jimmy Stewart.
James you want Hunt. The moon, Mary? I'll give it to you right now.
I'm gonna go race this car. Wow, we all do pretty good Jimmy Stewarts.
They're pretty good. It was pretty good.
That was a very cinematic film. That was whenever I see it on TV, I'm like, man, this is such a well shot film. But yeah, those are the movies that when I think about racing, those are the ones that kind of come to mind.
Yeah, I mean, we've been so lucky, like you said, we've had so many incredible racing films throughout the years. Rush, I think, is one of them that I'll always remember watching in theaters. And when Niki Lauda is getting the pipe taken out of his chest, and that scene, I think, literally is one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever seen in a film. But we have so many. I mean, Ford versus Ferrari, another iconic one. Gran Turismo, I love that you brought that up. We saw that a couple years ago now. And I think what a surprise that movie was. Again, you have a film that's directed by a director who's, I don't think is known for films that kind of look like that, right? A lot of it, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name now too? We're all forgetting names today. Neil Blomkamp. A lot of his films feel very just grounded, and you feel the texture of them. And Gran Turismo is a very clean, very sheen looking movie, and obviously very much inspired by, the game where it came from. And I forget that technically is a video game movie as well. You look at Fast and Furious, especially the early ones when racing was, the only thing that they were doing, not saving the world from nuclear bombs. But there's so many good ones. Days of Thunder. There is no shortage of great racing movies. Shahbaz, how about yourself? Take us to the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Gran Turismo, when we watched that was such a phenomenal film. On top of that, when you talk about Ford versus Ferrari, just really banger movies. There's a lot of great films. I think even when you look at some of what the Wachowskis did with the Speed Racer film, really out there stuff, but some of the racing scenes are just so captivating and very, very cool. It's a movie that, has a big cult following, and it just does some really cool things with racing. But yeah, when I think of the more grounded films, like you talk about Gran Turismo and Ford vs. Ferrari, those are the ones that I always kind of gravitate back towards. And even, you know what? let's throw in Pixar's Cars in there for fun.
There you go. That the forgotten great car movie, 100%. If you're new to the show, we are the Movie Podcast. You can catch brand new videos and episodes and reviews all throughout the week and all the latest movies and series. We have some great interviews out right now on the Movie Podcast feed. We have Ryan Coogler. We have so many more people of whose names I'm forgetting right now, but it's been no shortage of a very busy year, and we are full force into the summer movie season. Lots of movies to go, lots of reviews coming your way. Have we seen some of them already? You know we have. And we're going to have our review and our reactions and interviews for all of those and more. If you like what we're doing, check out our show notes below. It has everything you need to know, including our Discord. If you want to take the conversation after this episode, movie podcast episodes may end, but the conversation does not have to stop there. Join us on Discord. We're having a really great time there. But let's get to what this episode is all about. This is our F1 or F1 the movie review. This is coming from Apple Films from Joseph Kosinski, and it's being released in theaters by Warner Brothers. We got to see it through IMAX, so one of the trifecta got us there to watch this movie because we were gone for a couple of the other press screenings. But Shay and I were in New York when the premiere was happening, so we got to at least wave to the people at Times Square while that was going on. But let's get right to it. This is Joseph Kosinski's follow-up to Top Gun Maverick, which is one of the great summer movies of all time. I think it is, maybe top 3 for me. It's up there as one of my all-time favorite films. It's iconic. There was so much emotion and depth. And does he do it again with Brad Pitt? Shahbaz is going to start us off to tell us what he thinks.
F1, it's a full throttle adrenaline rush. It's a cinematic ride like you'd never expect. And it's able to do all this and remind you of a time where films looked like films. There's this beauty to the movie where you're watching it and you're like, oh my God, yeah, I forgot that movies can look like this, because there's such a care and attention to the scenes that are being brought to life. There's a care and attention to just the amount of money and effects that you're kind of putting into this movie, where a lot of it just feels very, very practical. You can tell that they're creating brand new cameras for a movie like this, because you gotta capture racing really, really well. And racing is one of those things where I think every director is trying to find the best way possible to do it. And I think Joseph Kosinski and Apple and Warner Brothers cracked it, because there are racing scenes in this movie where I actually can feel how fast the car is going. A lot of the times the cars are driving pretty slow, and through the power of editing, they speed it up and make it look like it's going really quick. But there are shots where the camera is just kind of panning back and forth between, the point of view of the driver and then behind the driver. And then sometimes there's even shots right from the front of the car, and you're seeing the other cars behind it, and you feel that full adrenaline rush of that car driving through the tracks. You're hearing every sound of the tire hitting the pavement. There is just so much put into this movie, yet it never complicates itself with the story, for better or for worse. This isn't a groundbreaking story. This isn't something that you've never seen before. But what's beautiful about it is that it's tangible enough to watch. It's one of the things that I keep hearing people say about this film is it's the ultimate dad movie. And that is very true. My father-in-law would love this movie because it's not overly complicated. It's a delight to watch, and it'll get you amped. You don't have to go super deep into, about the logistics of racing. And I think that's kind of where, if you're a fan of F1, you may feel a little bit disappointed that it may not go into the nitty gritty of what F1 is. And it just kind of is a surface level wash over it. And it takes a lot of liberties that probably don't happen in the actual F1 racing. But that's not the point of this movie. This point of the movie is about Sonny Hayes and him coming back into the world of racing through whatever situations have happened in his past. He's now finally back, and he's the old guy. He's teamed up with the young guy. They're bad cop, good cop, whatever you want to call it. There's just so much cliche in this film, but it works for it. It's not a negative thing that it's cliche. It's really positive because it makes the film very enjoyable and very reminiscent. Kind of like when you watch Top Gun Maverick, you're feeling that 80s nostalgia. You're feeling like, oh man, a good movie doesn't have to be very, very complicated. And that's what F1 does really well. It looks damn good. The score is fantastic. Hans Zimmer comes in, puts some really techno beats through it, and of course it's F1, you kind of want that, but sometimes you're just so used to a cinematic orchestral score that takes over the film. This one, it kind of blends the two together really well. And Hans is one of those guys that can do it. You've got a great soundtrack with the various artists in the movie as well. These songs kind of come in and hype you up as well. But then you have someone like Brad Pitt, who he's been, and I mean this not negatively, but Brad Pitt's been kind of playing a very similar character for the past couple of years. A lot of the criticism that I think Tom Cruise gets sometimes too, but I think Brad is really just kind of sticking to one formula at the moment. And in a movie like this, it really
Formula
works. Damn, Formula One. And in a movie like this, it works. You know, he's the grizzled old man. You root for him. You also know that he's a little bit reckless, but it works. And you have someone like Damson Idris, who is a great pairing with Brad. They have really good chemistry. And I think one of the absolute standouts in this movie is Kerry Condon. She's so magnetic. Her accent's also phenomenal. I just love hearing her talk. But overall, she's just such a fun character to see in this movie because she's no bullshit, but she's also like a realistic person. And of course, Javier Bardem, he's no grouch to look at, you know. He's a great looking man, but also just really, really great character.
Dude,
I think he steals a lot of this movie, Javier Bardem.
Oh,
I think,
for sure.
I think every scene he's in, I think he is the silent MVP of this.
You're
film,
always
100%.
kind of thinking like, is this gonna, and then nothing like that ever happens, and you're just like, love this guy.
There's a scene with him in the hospital when he's talking to Sonny, and it's just like, that's why you're one of the greatest actors. Like, he became,
absolutely,
he's like my top 5, and it's just like he pulled off the Collateral look. Remember his Collateral look? He came right from that set with the darker beard and the suit. He felt like, oh, this is what he looked like in the movie Collateral that Michael Mann did, and it just felt like he just has this presence, and when he says his lines, they just have so much gravity to them. It's just like, man, I love Javier Bardem.
And that's what you get, I think, right? Where you have the pieces all in play here, where you're getting a great cast, you have a great director. What they're doing, I think, again, story-wise, is not revolutionary. This is every racing trope in the book here that we've ever seen on screen. This is every single thing that we've seen before. Like, oh, it's a new guy coming in, he has to do this and this is, but that's not what this movie is. But I think just like Apple, who's the production company behind this film, you're not seeing something done for the first time, but you're seeing it done the best way, right? Where you have Joseph Kosinski coming in here, taking a familiar formula, one, and giving it to us and presenting to us in like we've never felt before. Like, you know, a few weeks ago they released a haptic version of this on the iPhone where you could actually feel it.
Crazy.
And I think your ass is going to feel that in the IMAX seats watching this movie, because it is so intense. It's one of the loudest movies that I think we've ever sat through, and it's spectacular in IMAX. You know, you have the full aspect ratio the majority of the time, or the entire time while watching this movie, so everything feels so big and you get just lost into this world. And, you know, it is a long movie. It's, you know, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. So I think at some points you're going to feel like, oh, okay, like, you know, we're still doing this. We have a lot of races in this movie, but I feel like we've been seeing them shoot this movie forever, where we were seeing Brad Pitt show up at all these different events over the years, you know, to film stuff for this. So you feel like this is real. You feel like Sonny Hayes is a real person, especially because he's being dropped into, you know, the world with real racers that we know. Like, you see Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen and all these guys. Like, we know that this is like a real world that they're racing in. And, you know, seeing like kind of the old grizzled guy and the new guy who's more obsessed with like kind of gaining followers and making a brand of himself. It's cool to see that. Again, it's not revolutionary, but the visuals and the roller coaster that you go on while watching F1 is the price of admission for this movie. It's worth that.
Yeah, and I think it's fitting because you have, you know, F1 is these science projects on wheels, right? And the actual movie is kind of like its own science project where it's testing out these new technologies that they can incorporate onto these cars with, you know, the rigging system of 7 cameras on a car, and then actually, like, as these cars are in motion, cutting to these cameras, having them turn to get the reaction of the driver. Like, you really feel like you're in the cockpit of this car. And I think what, you know, Joseph probably, you know, after the success of Top Gun, he's probably like, let's take the blueprint of Top Gun and put it in F1. And F1 right now is so popular, right? With their Drive to Survive series and just the popularity of, I think more than ever, just the general audience of F1 has grown like everyone's an F1 fan now. I think this is the right time for this movie to come out. I think this is the best time for this movie to come out. And the one thing that I wish, there's a lot of things I wish this film did. I think we needed a villain for this movie. I think we just needed that race car driver that was in direct competition with Sonny and his co-driver. And it felt like, yes, as much as, with F1, your teammate is your rival, but I just needed something more to create the drama. And I think that's also missing from this movie, the drama of Formula One. Like the more serious, darker scenes. We know there's going to be crashes. There's a couple of crashes in this movie, but I just felt like the villain was the most needed for this movie to really get me excited, because the ending for this film is so good, and I can imagine if there was someone in that rivalry state to get me
building up to that moment.
It would have been so
Lewis
much.
Hamilton, dude. Remember at the end?
Yeah.
Yes, he's there, but he's also not there. Like he's never Verstappen is never the that guy to beat. There's never anyone to beat.
Yeah.
It's just to get to the rankings.
It's the faceless cars. Like, it's the faceless enemies in Top Gun, but Top Gun has the emotional depth in the characters with Rooster and obviously with Maverick and everything going on there. So when they get put up against an antagonist, which they've been, building towards that in that movie, that works. Where I think, Anthony, you're so right. In this film, the entire time I'm like, oh, it's kind of just them butting heads with each other. And for someone who, like, I'm familiar with the sport, but also I'm just like, okay, again, no spoilers for the film. I'm like, but okay, he's not placing in this one, did not finish in this one. He's finishing in 10th place, 11th place. So I'm like, so what does it matter about this last race? You know what I mean? So I think because we weren't building a story around, the actual races, we were building it more behind the scenes. It felt like harder to care whether or not a race was won. Because I'm like, oh, they didn't really do a good job of making it seem why it was necessary to win this specific race. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think how it's edited, I think it does a good job. I think they didn't go through every single track of F1. I think the tracks that they chose, or Silverstone or Spa and Monza, were great. Monaco would have been amazing too. I think that's a huge endeavor, especially with the way Monaco is designed. But like it just felt like this was a real thing too. Like there, the paddock that they have inside of F1. I know that behind the scenes they actually built, their paddock inside with Ferrari and McLaren, just so it felt more authentic and that they were part of these races, and they got the audience that are part of these circuits to also be a part of it. So it wasn't like this, let's shoot on a green screen or let's shoot let's set this up and mock it. Like these were actual F1 events that they were just filming as it went, which was really, really cool. I think I really, really enjoyed the Abu Dhabi race. I think that's one of the best sequences I've seen in racing,
especially the end of that
the big
race.
screen. My God,
like the last 2 minutes of that race, I was like, it was that meme of that guy locking in. That was it.
Yeah, that was everyone in the theater. You know, like you see the seats, everyone just leaning forward, grabbing the recliners. Like this is why you love going to the movies to watch films like this, because you're just like, I am so locked in watching this. You're sweating. You're in it. And I think, there's, this line in the movie where you feel like you're flying, obviously, and like you feel that watching it. And I think that's, some of my favorite things about a summer movie like this, where this feels like the ultimate like popcorn, turn off your brain and just kind of go on the ride type film, right? Like you're just zoned in while watching this movie beginning to end.
Oh yeah. Like you do feel like that sequence with Brad Pitt, just like being in flying, just being this moment of like just levity as you just glide through the circuits and just be part of the experience.
It's a little anxiety inducing, that scene, that moment where like the camera's just going through and the audio's gone. You're like, oh my God, like what's going to happen?
Yeah. Cause you feel like, Brad Pitt is, an older man racing. Like it's not realistic in this day and age, especially with the cars and the gravity that
the G-force
pulls apart your body. So you do feel like, oh, are they foreshadowing something in the future that is, is he going to survive this race? Another thing I wish they incorporated, and I think it would have been really good, is just aspect ratio changes. Especially, I know this was full aspect ratio IMAX, but like going from a 2.351 to like a 1.48 aspect, or like an IMAX aspect ratio 1.43. I just feel like as the race starts, with the lights, you just see the like that aspect ratio change. That would have just zoned you in, like just the feeling of being zoned into F1 as a race. I have things that I wish they had done, like shot on IMAX cameras and on film cameras. I think that would have been fantastic. But maybe in the future, that's something we could look forward to. But I think
I just generally think it's like it's a logistical thing, right? Like I feel like putting those kind of cameras near the cars or even on the cars,
definitely not on the cars.
Apple made. Yeah, the ones that Apple made were so cool, right? Like the ones with the iPhone parts and like it just kind of like swivels or whatever. Like that's cool. Like they were able to do that. So yeah, you're right though. I wish they did the full IMAX experience.
I think a movie like this probably, it's clean too. It's really crisp. And I think having it shot on film would have just add the character of drama.
It looks like it was shot like in an Apple store in some moments of it, right? Like,
definitely.
Just because there's, it's like when you're like obviously in the back and the walls are all white or they're at their desks and I'm like, oh, we're in like a Apple conference room or briefing room or something like this.
The amount of XDR displays.
Yeah. Oh my God. The Apple products in this movie, of course, obviously this, at the end of the day, this is a long play for Apple TV Plus to bring subscribers to watch this film on that platform. But there's a lot of Apple product placement as you would expect, a lot of product placement in general in a racing movie, obviously, because it's on their jumpsuits, it's on their cars, the amount of like ninja and shark, things that appear too. Again, it's kind of played into it because this is what this world is, so it's like egregious. But for us watching, I think there were so many times where I just saw so many Apple products, I was just like, damn, like Apple, there's no Apple logo on this team, but they're all rocking Apple products like throughout the entirety of this film.
Yeah, I think when you look at like product placement for movies, you look at something where it's done where it kind of blends in, and then you look at some other movies like Barbie where it turns into a car commercial. And that's like the line that you can have. There's another movie that we recently saw as well that had like a car commercial scene in it too. And I was like, oh, like these things stand out. But when I think about how this movie does it, like I was noticing it because that's, how we're programmed. But I don't think it was
because we're stupid Apple people like that.
That's also
right.
True.
Yeah, no. And I'm not saying that it was like it was egregious, but it was just like as us who are very familiar with Apple and are fans of those products, we're just like, damn, that's a lot lot of XDR displays.
That's expensive room.
That's like $100,000 in monitors right there.
Send us one, Apple, please.
Send one us, please.
Yeah.
I did want to highlight Claudio Miranda, who is the cinematographer who obviously worked on Top Gun Maverick and is now back working on F1 with Joseph Kosinski on this. Hans Zimmer also coming back, and like Shay said, it's a good mix of obviously score and like music, as we got in Top Gun Maverick, as we've gone in Twisters. It feels very much like a 90s movie in that regard, where here's the soundtrack, and then here's the music from it inspired by soundtrack. And what Hans Zimmer does really well in this, just as he did in Top Gun Maverick, is intertwine the main theme for this song, which is, what's the Doja Cat song? Lose My Mind?
Lose My Mind, yeah. With the
Lose My Mind, right? Yeah, Lose My Mind. The Don Toliver song.
Don Toliver song,
and it's like, and you're using like the main, melody of that throughout the score, just like he did with Maverick and Hold My Hand, where you hear, that kind of weaving throughout. So when that scene hits where you're getting the full version of that, it hits so hard. And I think that's what this movie does really well. Technically, this movie is one of the best you're going to watch and experience this year on the big screen.
It's so funny. All these films now have like their own multiverse and universes, and how this movie could tie into a Days of Thunder reboot and having these two films kind of connected in the same world. Do you see that happening? I know like Days of Thunder is on a Warner Brothers or Apple
Paramount
production. I don't know how. Yeah, it's Paramount. I don't know how it would work if Jerry Bruckheimer still has, like, he has the rights to it and he can give it to anyone at this point, if he could give it to anyone he wants. But it's fitting that we have all these different universes happening in these bigger franchises that could lead to even more money, bigger experiences on the big screen, people going to the theater. Do you think like that's something that is logistical and logical in a racing film like this?
Why not? You know, I think like if you're going to a studio, if you're going to Warner Brothers or Apple, because this is their film at the end of the day, if you're going to Apple, who works with Paramount already, and it's like, okay, you have Jerry Bruckheimer, who was a producer on Days of Thunder. You have Hans Zimmer, who was the composer on Days of Thunder, who's also like the DNA is there. So all it is Jerry Bruckheimer making that happen and making a deal, right? Again, if that's Warner Brothers and Paramount teaming up and Apple gets the streaming rights for it, and you're saying, okay, hold on, we're getting Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise in a movie together, that's a no-brainer. Here is your boatload of money, go make it. So I'm down for that, because I would love to see.
Here for it.
I'm a big fan of Days of Thunder. I'd love to see, you know, Tom's character come back.
Yeah, it's such a cool idea. I think like you can play it so many ways. You can do the villain story like you want, Anthony, like you're talking about, or you can just kind of, you want to be fun? Brad Pitt in an F1 car and Tom Cruise in a NASCAR. And they're just like, they're on the same track for some reason. They're like, which one's better, brother? I don't know why they're wrestlers, but yeah.
It'll be called Days of Thunder versus F1.
Yeah. Dawn of Justice.
Yeah, Dawn of Justice, and they're showing up. But they also, like, again, their names, like Sonny Hayes and Tom Cruise's character in Days of Thunder's Cole Trickle. So it's like,
it's not a cool name
character
though.
Like but it's like
Tom
it's like
didn't
Cole
get the cool name in this one.
And Sonny, you know, he doesn't.
Yeah, you got a little trickle on you. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, like 100%. Find a way to make it work. If he's like, he's gonna literally, after credit scene in F1 should have just been Tom Cruise like sitting in his garage watching Sonny Hayes' comeback and being like, interesting. And it's like he just takes his steering wheel and goes out, and it's like, oh shit, bigger universe is in play.
That's a good one, man. You should have when you talked to Jerry Bruckheimer, you should have said that to him.
We should have dropped that. Hey Jerry, we got an idea for you, buddy.
We'll talk to him again.
Yeah, one day. But let's get to our final recommendations for F1 the movie. Anthony, I'm going to get you to start us off.
So it's a definite watch it. I think if you're an F1 fan, this is the ultimate movie for you, and you need to watch it in IMAX, because you'll never experience F1 like F1. You know, it's too bad this movie doesn't have an actual title, but for real, you could watch it in the grandstands, you could watch it on TV, but this is like you're in the cockpit, you feel it, you see it, you hear it, you experience it. It's the ultimate F1 ride.
Yeah, it's a great time at the movies. It's absolutely electric, and you are going to just, you know, fall in love with this world. It's not reinventing the wheel. Again, I go back to my Apple analogy from the earlier in our review. It's not something you're seeing for the first time, but you're seeing it done one of the best ways. And I think, you know, F1 is a great time at the movie. Go watch it. You'll have a great time. Shahbaz, take your final lap. Let us know.
You got to watch this movie. You got to watch this movie in IMAX. You got to see it on the biggest screen possible, because you need to hear it, you need to see it, and you need to feel it. F1 is the movie right now that is championing my summer, and there's a lot of movies that are going to be coming out, and I'm wondering, where's the rest of the summer going to go? But man, F1 is just a thrill ride. You're just going to have a great time with it. If you have a dad, take it. If you don't have a dad, find a dad and take him, because this is a movie that dads need to go see. That's it.
I love it.
It's funny.
I absolutely love it.
When you said dads, when I went to watch it, the majority of people in this theater were dads, or they look like dads. You know, like they're just older men, not a lot of women. It was just older men with their group. Like they had their own posse, and they were just watching this film and experiencing it. A lot of them were taking out their phones. I don't know why. Like that's something like you think like a generation that never grew up with phones would not use them during
be a bit more
theater,
respectful.
It's crazy how many of them did it.
No, they use them. They and full ringer too.
Yeah.
Oh, dude,
they're like never have their phones on vibrate.
It was shocking.
They're like, hold on.
But I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like, you know, this is the only time you have.
It's part of it.
Yeah.
But
you know what? Also,
it's funny you said
take your mom also for Brad Pitt. Take your mom, because she'd like to see Brad Pitt.
Oh, definitely. Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Gorgeous man.
Oh, and Javier Bardem. Sorry.
He is.
Forgot.
Yeah, there's a lot of gorgeous people. A lot of gorgeous people in this film. F1 is now playing in theaters. We want to say a huge thank you to Warner Brothers, Apple, and IMAX for inviting us to the screening to check it out. We are in the summer movie season. What more could we say? We have so many more interviews and reviews and great discussions coming to the movie podcast. You do not want to miss any of it. Check out our show notes below for everything you need to know and more. Follow us on socials. A like goes a long way. We've been really lucky to do some awesome stuff this year, and we want to keep bringing you even more. So stay tuned for everything that we have. Superman, Fantastic Four, Jurassic, we're so close to it all. Until then, that was This Time with the Movie Podcast, and we'll see you next.